Hello and welcome back this week. This week I am running solo. Phil's gone off to visit some friends, so we won't be hearing or seeing from him today. But you just have to put up with me, and you have to bear with me because I'm looking up at the screen, which is over there. So if I'm doing the pyrography here and looking up, so if I miss a question, please just ask again. I will get to it. I promise. I really do promise. So what we're going to do is I'm going to switch the cameras over to this overhead one here. And last week we did the eyebrows and filled in a lot of the shading. This week we are going to aim for doing these ears here. So once we've done the ears, we'll see if we can get a little bit more shading in on the face. So I'm just going to start here. So what I've got in here is I've actually got the standard loop in the pen today. Now what I've done with this standard loop comes straight. So what I've done is I've put a slight angle on there because it's great for giving detail at the end, and then I can cheat a little and I can do a little bit of shading with that flat part there. So I do apologize if you can hear the dog. She's having a good old scratch. She's in the workshop with me today. Hopefully she'll behave. The first week we had her in the workshop, she chewed through the microphone wires. So there's no microphone wires in her way today. That's all I can say. So what I'm going to do is I'm using the Peach Tiles machine, and I've just got it on a number 3, and I'm going to switch it on. So hello Andrew, hello Jacob, hello Jamie Pie, and hello Jake. So welcome to this crazy slice of pyrography. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start with the inner ears. I'm just going to zoom this in a little bit, move it across. So there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this inner ear because this inner part is quite dark. So we're going to start with the darker parts first. So just taking the tip of the pen and doing a swinging motion. So we're swinging backwards and forward with the pen, just to add shade. We don't want any hard lines. Realism isn't hard lines, so we are aiming for a fuzzy line. So we're just going to get that bit in there nicely. And then what we'll do is we'll come down the inside of the ear here, where it's a little bit more lighter on the colour. So just still using the swinging motion because it's a good motion to use. You want your pen in motion as you touch the wood, so it doesn't scorch and give you all the nasty burn blobs, because they are awful. So hello Andy. Just to fill you in, I am on my own today, so there's no Phil. Yeah, you won't hear him giggling away as usual. He's gone to visit friends. So I'm flying solo, and you have to put up with me solo today, I'm afraid. So what I'm going to do is come down to this. Just move this across actually. So I'm going to come down this section here. So what I'm going to do is it's a bit lighter, so I'm just going to turn it down to a 2.5. I'm just going to drag downwards. There we go. Just dragging downwards just to add that first layer of burn. And then what we're going to do is go in this inside bit a little bit more, just to darken it down, just to add that extra layer in there. Just so you can see, you need to be able to see the difference. Ears are a weird thing to burn. I must admit they're not my favourite. They're a little bit on the weird side, the way that they are when you're trying to create realism. Lucy is away with Gideon on a play date. Nice. Nice to have a play date. Yeah, Jake, yeah, I suppose left-handers is we're a minority as left-handers. Anybody else left-handed in the chat, or all writers? I can actually use my right hand, and I can write with my right hand. I'm just not very good at it. So we've got a little bit in here. It's a little bit darker, so we're just going to bring that down into the dark, and then spread it out, so like from the darker into slightly lighter. And this bit of the ear is actually darker than the rest, so we're going to darken it down, but we're going to just do it gradually rather than scorching heck out the wood, because that is an ugly look when you just scorch the wood. So just pulling it down. So with pyrography, you've got like lots of different techniques that you can use, but the basic ones are pushing and pulling and swinging, which sounds great. So yeah, so just pushing that way. I tool my lever left-handed. Nice. Are you actually right-handed then, Jacob? Kezia and I have been baking cakes. Oh, nice. Cakes are pretty cool. I like cakes. What's everybody else been up to this week? Anything good? We got anything exciting planned? I was teaching yesterday in Sudbury. Absolutely beautiful village. So it was really, really nice to do yesterday. So we've got a bit here that's a bit darker, so we're just going to take that down there like that. And we're just still using the swinging motion along with the pushing and pulling type motion. The wood grain on this side of the wood is behaving quite well. On the other side, it was not so great, but this side's okay. So just in that little bit is just a little bit darker, so we're just going to add some extra layers in there. Yes, right-handed. Nice. I'm right-handed, but for some strange reason I can turn left-handed. Nice. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I learned to use my right and my left hand quite early on, because I used to have my left hand in plaster quite a bit when I was a kid. So I just used to tie shoelaces with one hand, and it was always my right hand. So my right hand just got stronger at doing things. It was a bit of a bummer when your dominant hand is in plaster. So just adding that in there. So now you can see that that's starting to form the ear just by adding the extra layers in the darker patches. So we've actually got another bit just here. So there we go. So what I've done is I don't want this bit too dark, and I didn't want it to land on the wood too sort of like heavy and give me a blob. So what I did is I just blew the tip a little bit. If you blow the tip, it just cools it just enough for the tip to touch the wood and not scorch it. There we go. I think that's actually pulled that around a little bit more, actually, just there like that. There we go. So looking at this, we've got this bit just here, so we're going to add an extra layer to this bit here. It's just in a little bit of shadow just where the ear bit is, but it's not too much. And then we're going to darken this slightly. And there we go. There we go. So we've got this bit here. And just concentrating on how to do this and explain it at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up from this darker patch into that top of that ear there. Just where the ear touches the head there. Just to give it the skin tone, but not too much. This wire is actually driving me mad today. So I was just reading the screen to see whether you guys had said anything. There we go. Just swinging motion backwards and forwards, just bringing that skin tone into that ear. But where the lighting comes from, it doesn't show too much skin. It's quite, well, it shows skin, but it's not too much color wise. So there we go. A little bit darker just on there. So this machine is still on a 2.5. Can't remember whether I put it on a 2 or a 2.5 then. A blonde moment for a split second. There we go. Now what we're going to do is pull down the side of here as well. So going all the way down, just pulling it with the grain. It goes nicely with the grain. And just to add that little bit of a skin tone, I think we'll put an extra layer just in here. I'm just going to go down this side. Now, it's not a hard line. It's actually quite a fuzzy line. Just bringing it down. And there we go. So, just going to bring this out a little bit more. Like this. There we go. Just colour that bit of that ear just there. The ears are weird things. They really are weird things. I know we have to have them, but it doesn't stop them being weird. So pull down that side just there. That's it. So what's everybody been up to this week? There we go. So what we're going to do is we've got a little bit of a shadow there. So just we're going to fill that shadow in. But what we're going to do is pull from this darker section so it doesn't land too dark on the bit there that we don't want too dark. It's always best to pull from your darker area down into your lighter area. It just helps to like fade it, blend it, that type of thing. And there we go. Just darken this side of this face just a little bit, just to give us a bit more of an edge. Not a hard line, just a little bit of an edge. There we go. So let's go back up here and pull that down there like that. Hey up, Copper Owl, how you doing? Phil's not here today. He's gone on his wandering ways. He's gone to visit friends, so he's not here today. So you have to bear with me a second while I'm looking at the screen as well as doing this. So just bear with me a second. But I hope you're well. So just pulling down gently, adding the shadow to that inner part of the ear. We don't want to add it too quickly because it yellows the wood, and we don't really want the yellow on the wood. So let's try. There we go. Oh. Trying to make my picture bigger on my iPad just slightly, and it decided to flick off because that's what's going to happen, isn't it? It's the way it rolls. So there we go. So we've got a bit of a shadow coming here. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. And there we go. Just using that pull motion to add to the overall bit of the ear. Hey up, Huey, how you doing? What you been up to this week, mister? So let's darken this bit down here. There we go. I think we're getting there with this ear now. Just going to soften these edges a little bit here. You can see ears are funny things. They stick out in all directions. There we go. Just going to take that over a little bit, just so it looks a little bit smoother on the burn. There we go. Just add, excuse me, add a little bit down there, just for there's a little bit of shadow in there. When you're doing realism, you have to look really close for all the different shades and shadows and all the different tones, and then you when you add those in, that's when you get the realistic look. A lot of people assume that you're putting like lots and lots of details in, but if you put too many details in and not enough tonal value, everything looks a little cartoony and a little fluffy. For want of a better word. So what I'm doing, I'm just fussing with this actually now. It is relatively done, but I'm just fussing, not fluffing. I'm fussing. There we go. So that bit there's just on that earlobe is just a little bit darker. So we're just going to add an extra layer. I think that's looking pretty good. I think I can stop fussing for a minute, and what I'll do is I can fuss with the other side. So in this part, let's move this over here so you can see it. So in this part here is nice and dark, so that's what we're going to do. But this ear is actually just slightly out of focus. Let me show you. So you've got this ear and it is literally just slightly out of focus. So you've got some great sort of shadow on there. So we're going to make sure we add those bits in. because it adds to the overall effect of the picture. Thank you, Huey, much appreciated. Could an earworm but realise this is a classy show? Well, we try and keep it classy, mate. We really do try and keep it classy. And I never really thought, actually, about earworms. I just kind of went, ew, panic, I've got to do tech myself. I'm not very technical. Phil's the technical one. So don't ask for anything technical, please, guys, because I have no idea how to do it. That's what I have Phil for. He's fab at tech. There we go. Just add this, because this bit here, it's actually quite dark. There we go. So we're going to add a few layers on here, which is actually, with this tip, it's actually quite good, because the tip itself, because it's so tiny, it heats up really, really fast. So as I take it off the wood, it heats up back to where it was. So one of the reasons why I use the swinging motion, because it gives chance for the tip to heat back up again. It just does it really, really fast with this one, because it's just a thin piece of wire. And it's great for small details as well. So just adding those bits in there. Where are we going with this? So what I'm going to do is take that off from the darker area into the lighter area, and we're going to add the shadow that way, because it naturally, if you keep the pen on the wood, it naturally, it's as if it runs out of burn. It doesn't. It's just where the wood cools the tip to a point where it's stopped working. So there we go. So pull that down a little bit darker there. There we go. So we're going to go over this way from this hair, because this hair is a bit darker. So we're going to take it that way. Take it in the direction of it. Pull that down. This is where my wood's a bit, it's a bit weird on the grain. Although it was sanded quite well, it's kind of leaving like that. It's left a lot of the grain in, so we've had to hide a lot of the grain. There we go. So move up and down. So give it a little bit of curvature. So what I've done is, the line actually went straight up, but I'm going to give it a little curvature so it looks like it's curving with the ear. So just that extra shadow there, because it is slightly darker just on that ear. There we go. And then we're going to darken this down a little bit more. There we go. Bring that down. There, so that is actually looking quite good for an ear. It looks weird. It actually looks a bit weird, but I think that's just because of the where the ear is in regards to the head. There we go. So if we just, so what I've done is it stepped off into the side quite sharply. So what I've done is just brought that down a little bit, so it doesn't look quite so weird, because it did look a bit weird on the ear. Doesn't when you look at the picture, but actual burning it looked a little bit weird. There we go. So there we go on there. So if we zoom out, yeah, that's the way. We are looking pretty good. And there's the, move that down a bit. So there's the burn, and then there's your picture. So it does actually go in a little bit. So what I've done is I've curved it around just so it doesn't look quite so as if somebody's chopped his ear off. It's a bit weird. I never actually noticed that until I burnt it. But there you go. So what we're going to do is zoom this back in again. Back in. There we go. So we've actually got, looking at this grain here where we burnt before, we've actually got what looks like, it looks a little bit bitty. So it's kind of a little bit everywhere. So what I'm going to do is just go over with this and smooth it all out. So we're just going to do some smooth blending. So pulling from the darker areas down. You can use the swinging motion. I generally try and pull from the darker area as I first touch down. And then I'll swing backwards and forwards when I've got some motion on there and some movement. The movement's important. So actually I'm going to turn this up to a number 3. So we've gone from 2.5 to a 3 now. So back in the dark and bring it down. Just to bring some of that skin tone in, but trying to get rid of the grain in the wood. You can see all the lines, so just aiming to kind of smooth them out a little bit. So it should look like it's on wood, don't get me wrong, but there is, when the grain breaks up too much, I think it looks weird. There we go. There we are. So that's starting to smooth that out a little bit. And I'll go over that quite a few times. I perhaps won't bore you with it because it is a really, really slow process to like smooth it all out. But I just thought I'd show you what to do when you get it like this. Sometimes wood plays ball and sometimes it just doesn't like you at all. There we go. There we go. So there is quite a bit of smoothing to do on that. And it just takes a while to build up, because you're building it up very, very gradually because of the skin tone. There's no good going in really, really dark. Just because you'll scorch the wood, and we really don't want to scorch the wood. So there we go. So right, what I want to do is move that up. And we're going to start by hang on. Just move that up a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to put a piece of wood under there. So pull that down a little bit. So what we're going to do is start on the skin around the neck. So his neck comes down from here. So we are pulling that down. As you can see, the skin tone goes in quite well. And watch is beeping at me. Turn it off. There we go. So that's is going in quite well there. Just making sure that it goes in nice and gently, because you need to build these layers up. There we go. Thanks, Jamie. I keep having to remember to look up and read. I keep forgetting. I do apologise if I've missed anything. Shout at me again, and I'll pick it up. So this bit here is actually clothing. It's actually really, really dark, and you've got dark patches in the clothing that side as well. But what I'm going to do is just get this first layer of skin in, because it's going in really, really well. Because it actually doesn't need to be much darker. There we go. There we go. Just adding it in nicely. There is some shadow around here, but we'll add those bits in afterwards. Just making sure that we get this first layer in first. Going around that fabric. There we go. So this bit here actually comes down from here, which is where his neck is. And this bit here is just that little bit darker as well. So we're just using the swinging motion just to add the layers in really, really gently. Quite sure which way to go then. We'll go that way. We'll go that way. Ooh, it's St. Pat's Day today. Is anybody going out, doing anything? Does anybody celebrate it? I haven't celebrated it for a few years. Well, quite a few years now. There we go. So just add in those extra bits in there, just for the extra extra bit on the darkness, the shadow. So we've got a bit of shadow going off here. So we're going to add in here. And there we go. It's just where the shadow of the fabric sits on the skin. Where the fabric sits on the skin, there is a shadow just there. There we go. There we go. Just adding that shadow in. There we go. Just smoothing it out a little bit. There we go. It all just takes a little bit of time, just adding all the extra layers in, but it does make a big difference on a burn to add those extra layers in. And it definitely adds to the overall effect at the end. This bit here is actually quite dark, so we're just going to add that bit in. Actually, it's just where the fabric of the top meets, and I suppose it's where it goes around the back of the neck and where it meets the skin. There we go. So not a hard line. We're doing a bit of just an edge rather than a hard line, just adding that in so we can see where we need to go with this fabric. Oh, sorry, I realised I'm going off the page. Well, off the screen even. It's not a page, is it? It's a screen. So that bit there's come out a little bit darker than what I wanted it to. But I haven't got to worry about that bit because that bit is actually dark, thankfully. I might not have been saying thankfully if it hadn't have been dark. Would have been scratching it off like last week. So just going with the grain of the wood just because it's easier. And we're going to darken that down a little bit more. There we go. Because that bit over there is quite dark, and it's actually dark to here. So bring that in, just like that. I think it's the pattern on the collar. I do apologise, my dog is scratching herself. I think puppies spend most of their life scratching themselves rather than doing anything else. Every time you want them to do something, they just scratch themselves. Every time I try and train her, she just looks at me, sits down, and has a good itch. It's like, you're good, aren't you? So that bit there is a bit darker. I didn't want to go too dark originally when I did this bit here, just because you can add it. It's easier to add it than it is to take it away. You can take it away, don't get me wrong. You just scrape it off with a knife, but I'd rather not. So just this is actually a lighter section on this bit of fabric, but it actually comes up from here as a little bit more of a shadow. I'm just going to add that bit in there. There we go. So it's just adding that depth of where that fabric curls around that neck there. Let's add some more layers in here. My my next door neighbour is out in the garden at the moment, and the puppy can hear the next door neighbour, and she keeps pacing the workshop, trying to find out where the noise is coming from. Bless her. Luckily enough, she's not normally a barker. She doesn't bark that much generally. Watch her go and bark now, just to prove me wrong, because that's what they do, isn't it? So just adding these extra layers in, just to add that extra dimension. Don't ever be afraid to burn dark. Just do it gradually. There we go. This bit here is quite dark, so I'm just going to add some extra layers in there. Just using the circular motion with this. I don't very often use the circular motion with this tip. It's just because it's a straight edge, and sometimes it can leave lines, but it seems to be working quite well actually. There we are. So where are we now? So we've got to go up from there, and we've got, it's actually stitching across there. So if we just add some shade across there to begin with, just as a base layer, and it comes out about there. So just add that in. This is all quite dark under there actually. So just add an extra layer of burn there. There we go. Yeah, I think I definitely need tempt fate there, Andrew. It was always sod's law, wasn't it, that she was gonna start. She's actually settled down now, thankfully. I think he was filling a wheelbarrow or something. That way. So we're going to go that way on there. There we go. Because it is dark, but there is a light patch going through. There we go. So the dark patch comes down just here, but then the stitching goes through it. So what I'm going to do is add that in first. And the stitching runs along there. So add this in. There we go. I don't want to go too dark with that stitching, just because I don't know how it's going to look afterwards. So we can always darken it down. If need be. And well, there as well. It looks like it's an overlocked stitching, so it looks a bit weird actually. So just add all these little lines in just here. There we go. So his stitching is now in. And it stops literally just there. So we need to add that as a bit darker. Like I say, it's easier to go darker than it is to lighten it up. What I'm going to do is turn this machine off just a second and give this another clean. These tips are so tiny and they get carbon on them really, really quickly, especially when burning dark. We have been burning a bit of dark. There we go. So turn that back on. Still got this on a number 3. So what I'm going to do here is add some of this shade up here, because this is about where the fabric curves. I don't know if you can hear me. I actually keep blowing this tip because it's just habit, I think. So there, and come down a little. There we go. I think we should be with next week. I think this will be finished. I think we'll be just titivating it and adding highlights next week for this, and then we'll be able to move on to something else, which will be exciting. I've picked a pair of Converse trainers for the next project because I want to do fabric, and it's got it obviously got you got the shoe fabric, and you've got the laces as well. So it's really quite interesting on how the fabric lies, and you can look at all the different tonal values and things like that. There we go. Adding that in there. There we go. Still, this is nearly quite black. This bit here, it's not going very well. I've tried to do it crossways and it wasn't doing it very well. I think it's because the grain is raised up slightly. So we're just going to go with the grain instead. It's just much easier. There we go. Oh, 10 minutes left. Not doing bad. Not doing bad at all. I didn't know whether we'd only just get the ears done, actually, but we've done more than I thought we would, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. So adding in some circular movements. Now, normally I don't use circular movements with this, like I said earlier, but with this, with it being fabric, it actually adds quite a nice bit of texture, because sometimes things need texture, especially clothing. And I think this is a dressing gown, so it's like really, really, dressing gowns are fluffy. So just need to add a little bit of texture to make it sort of look like fluff, but we needed to get the base layers in first. We always have the details afterwards. So I've never actually done a dressing gown before. Any of these pictures that we burn on here, I've never done them before. I don't practice them. I don't generally like burning the same picture twice. There we go. So just adding a little bit of texture in that lighter area there. There we go. So yeah, looking pretty good there. Any ideas what's coming next after the boy is done? So I've got my picture on my iPad. So I've got a pair of Converse shoes. I found a picture on one of the free sites. I think it may have been Pixabay. I'm not quite sure, but I've just used one of their free pictures. And so we're looking at fabrics and laces and stuff like that. There we go. And there we are, just adding those layers in there. So that's actually looking quite good. We've got quite a bit done in here. So I'm going to bring that down, bring the burn down on there, just go all the way across with that. And there we go. The dog's on the move again. She doesn't normally come in the workshop. She's actually frightened of the noises normally. She hears a noise and legs it. There we go. So that's looking quite good there. I'm going to pull down from there as well. I'm using fast movements on this bit just because I just want to put like a layer on rather than like lots and lots of burn. So use fast movements. The faster you go, the lighter the burn. The slower you go, the darker the burn. Generally. You see the grain popping up there. Look, can you see it? So we just need to make sure we go in between and try and even that burn out a little bit. We're not going to get a chance to do this other side today, but next week I think we can do that side, the highlights, and I think we will be done. So we'll be done on human portraiture this time. And you still see this, you can still see the lines and stuff in there. Just trying to be careful not to burn over the darker bits of the lines and try and get in between where the lighter bits are. There we go. I think that's about it for that bit there. There we go. Right, so if I zoom that out, I always go the wrong way with this camera. Zoom that out, you can see exactly what we've done today. A little bit more, yeah, because that a little bit more. There we go. So you can see exactly what we've done today. So we've managed to get these ears in here and here, and then added the fabric in. Now underneath, I think it's the actual chin itself needs a little bit more layering on the shading, only a touch more, just because the way that the picture is, it is slightly darker here than it is underneath the neck. So we've added the bit of fabric in and the ears in today. I will give you a quick show of the picture. Give me a second. I will show you the picture that is coming up next. Just have to scroll through the thousands and thousands of photographs that's on on my iPad, because we'll collect photos, don't we? Just never seem to do anything with them. I'll find it in a minute. There we go. So that is the picture that I'm looking at doing next. Just because you've got lots of details in, you've got the stitching in, you've got the fabric, you've got the different colours and the tonal values of the fabric, you've got the different highlights and darks on the shadows on the laces and things like that. You've also got the really black shadows here, and then the white pump bits at the front. So I'm going to have a go with that and see how we go, really. So right, take that away. Now I've got to work out the camera. There we go. That's the one. So yeah, next week we will finish off the fabric on the other side of the dressing gown and put some highlights in, and then the following week we'll be starting with the Converse shoes. So thank you very much for joining me this week. It has been an absolute pleasure. Sorry Phil couldn't be here, he's with friends at the moment, but he'll be back next week just as normal. Well, I hope so. I kind of missed his chuckle. So right, I will see you again next week at 4 p.m. on Sunday. Thank you very much for joining me. It has been fabulous to see you all. See you soon.